Hi, welcome to part two of Building Superintendent Trustworthiness. Sit back and enjoy. One of my pet peeves is saying when you be there, like not following your word. When you say something, you'll be at the building, you meet this the property manager at this time, you get this ready, and it doesn't happen. That also hits your credibility of honesty and trustworthiness. It
Yeah,
may
this
seem
is a big one.
small, yeah. It seems small. I mean, all of us do it. Oh, I'll be there in an hour. And next thing you know, you really have good intentions. You want to be there in an hour. And you're like, oh my God, I'm rushing through traffic. And then you miss it by like half an hour. It just hits your credibility and your reputation for honesty and trust. Because they won't see that you're trying to make it there. They're just going to see that you're not able to keep your word. And so something simple like that, I always say this, pat on if you're pro, because some of us are worse than others. Some of us will say like, I'll be there in half an hour, and you'll have to check in on them like 10 times. And it's been like 4 hours since they said half an hour. Um, that you're never going to trust that person again in terms of their times their time expectations. You're always going to be like, man, he said 11. I'm not going to be there until 5. Or you may even find another vendor. You may find another super. Eventually, that's going to, because second guessing it takes so much energy out of you, makes you tired, makes you anxious that I'm just going to, eventually, that might end up with a board member or building manager finding another super, right? So always pad on more time. Like if you know that you're bad with this, if you say an hour, stop yourself and say 2 hours. You know yourself, so you know what people have told you. I mean, because this, if you do it in work, you probably do it to your family too. So maybe someone in your family can help you say, yeah, you know what, you're on you're on a different time zone. So whenever you commit to something, you're always like an hour late. If that's true, then add another hour to what you're doing, to what you're promising, because it's going to hit your credibility, and you're going to be questioned. What you say, your word is going to be questioned.
Yeah, being punctual is the first thing to be being professional in any field.
Right, right.
Any field. And be 10 minutes early. That's even better.
That's that's a lot to ask for someone that always comes 4 hours late. But I know what you're saying. Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, just really, if you're not good at it, work on it. And it is really important. Oh, I can be 5 minutes late.
Right,
And 3 minutes won't hurt. No. If you promise 11,
right.
be there 10:59.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's what differentiates you from other supers.
right. Exactly.
It's so important. I can't stress that enough.
And the next one, may actually um, be seem harmless, but and it could be harmless, meaning that we do it all the time unknowingly, but it could open you up and expose you to trust issues and issues of honesty, dishonesty, is when you are found to be taking favors or giving favors. Um, I know we all tend to do it because sometimes, we like somebody, and sometimes we get close to people who live at the building. So I'm talking about favors that we give to other residents at the building, meaning favoring one over the other. We have a little guest here. It's a guest on 4 legs. Okay, so we want to watch giving favors to people. and giving favors to residents at the building, whether it's a shareholder or a renter, or whether it's to a vendor or to the next building or something, and then receiving favors. And the reason for that is because when you're at a building, you're there to treat everyone equally. You're there to service everyone equally in the same with the same level of service. That's what professionalism is. And when you're at a building, it's easy to lose focus of that. You may end up liking one person and then really going out of your way to help that person. And that's understandable. It's human nature, right? We're all humans. We like certain people more than others. We may connect with someone more quickly than others. We may want to help them. But if you take on, and I'm not saying don't do favors, but this will open you up to questions of honesty and trustworthiness, because in favors you may end up seeming that you're favoring one over the other.
What could be an example of this?
Example is like, let's say you're at a building where you're finding out that the porter is using the parking spot of another of a shareholder who's not there temporarily, and technically, according to the rules, employees of the building are not allowed to park in that parking lot. And the response after asking the porter, "Why are you parking there?" He's like, "Oh, this shareholder did me a favor by he said that he's away from the country, out of the country for a month, and that I could use his parking spot." What do you think about that?
For me, I mean, it seems like the shareholder's decision. The shareholder can give the parking space to whoever he wants to.
I mean, even if assuming that there was no policies that say that he couldn't, that's true. That's true. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not bad on its face. Like, it's not terrible on its face, but this actually happened at a building, and so the property manager ended up questioning whether the porter was doing favors for people.
I get it.
And
So it's not really out there, but these can be interpreted in a bad way.
bad way, yes.
Like if
Thank
something
you.
personal
Yeah.
is intermingled
Right,
with the professional work,
right,
then people start to think
right,
and be suspicious
Right.
about this. Why is he getting the parking spot?
right, right,
Like, is he getting away with something? Is
Right.
the shareholder getting away with something?
right, right,
Especially if there is any politics going on
Right.
inside the building, that could be a bad thing. So I guess kind of separating yourself as a human being, individual, and you're always going to be a porter. You're always going to be the building super, and that is the shareholder who's the boss.
right.
So you have to be careful when you're accepting or giving personal favors.
Right. That's a great way to distinguish that. I think that was better said than I could ever think of. Yes, personal favors. That's a differentiating personal favors. Is there any situation where you can do professional favors, or do you think that being professional means not giving favors, or maybe it is giving favors? Maybe it's by saying like, okay, I won't charge for this to the building, to the benefit of everybody. You know.
I think I would like to say that as being flexible.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. You not being, it's important to follow the rules.
Right.
Be, technical. Technically, you're not supposed to do that, but I think because the building, its setting is, it consists of a lot of people, and of course feelings. It's really hard to really give an an answer to this,
Right.
but it depends on the situations. But if you like, as you experience um, different types of buildings, different types of people, you'll know what can be acceptable in certain buildings.
Right.
So if you know that, then that's great. If you can still have that kind of like a line or like the border of what's okay and not, if you can give a favor by not touching those lines, then it's okay. I think it's professional.
Okay.
But if you just don't know what that borderline is, if you're not sure, just don't give favors.
Right. 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 That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, you can always say, "Oh, I'm not sure if I can do that. Let me ask my manager."
Right.
It's because I don't know.
Right.
Then the shareholder will be okay with that.
Right. Right. So that's actually a great way to respond to something like that to the shareholder, right? If they ask you for a favor that you may feel is a personal favor, right? And it's keeping business and personal separate, which is important because as a part-time building, you're taking care of all these buildings. You're going to meet a lot of shareholders in different buildings, and every building has sometimes I can say every building has its own type of community, right?
Yeah, and its own character.
Its own character. And you have different types of it. Some buildings are totally about, like loosey goosey and favor oriented. Another building is like prim and proper and they want
The
everything.
rules are rules.
Rules are rules. That it's so funny how and that's where if you don't know how to navigate that, you can get yourself into trouble. You may treat one building like the other.
Right.
And so definitely, thank you for that. So I would say receiving tips is probably in there too. I'm not saying don't take the tips, but be careful what it can open up. Be conscious, be aware of what can open up. You should definitely not take anything from vendors, outside vendors, but I'm talking about tips from shareholders. Taking tips from vendors looks bad across the board. There's so many ways that can be interpreted in a very bad way, especially if it's a vendor that you introduced to the building. I can't think of. I would say just steer clear away from that. I have people always coming up, or I have people who are always coming up to people in a network saying that I've heard about saying, "Oh, I'll give you this, I'll give you that if you get." No, they always say it's they always tell me that they've said flat out, no, just do the job, just do it to perfection. Don't make me look bad. That's what they're asking the vendors to do, and I think that's a great way to approach it. Because that's taking tips is or some sort of money from other vendors. I can't think of a way that could impact your trustworthiness or reputation more.
Yeah, and I wouldn't trust those vendors. You never know those vendors gonna hate you.
Throw you under the bus?
Yeah, I will, with their truck. But
throw you under their truck, their work truck.
I mean,
so you're talking about literally. Okay.
Yeah, there's a possibility where they can betray on you.
Yeah, I mean they could do that. I mean, yeah. I mean,
especially liability issues. I wouldn't trust those vendors. They're gonna do whatever it takes to make this into the super's problem.
Right.
I was told to do this.
But sometimes they say it innocently. Some vendors are.
But I'm talking about the vendors who are constantly trying to.
Right.
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 Don't do that.
Right. I mean, there's a fine line. I think sometimes they're like, oh, I'll give you a couple extra bucks. I mean, there's this whole thing in real estate brokering where they talk about referral fees and all that stuff, and how if someone gets someone else a job that makes a lot of money, why can't you show a thanks, right? It's like a thanks. So it becomes a murky situation. That's why I'm saying my thing is just stay away when you can, even when it's good, well intentioned. Sometimes a vendor will have all the best intentions about that gift. Just stay away, because that
Yeah.
impacts your credibility and your reputation.
Yeah, so it's about protecting yourself, and we're all human beings, and if you get some sort of gift, it comes with something. You're not just taking the gift. They're gonna ask you, "Oh, I kind of made a mistake. Can you cover up for me?"
Yeah,
They
yeah.
will say that because I gave you something.
I know it's human nature to give and take, right?
Yeah.
So you feel obliged.
Yeah,
you
and
feel
you'll feel
indebted.
bad,
Yeah, yeah,
and
And-
you'll lose your objectivity.
yeah.
So just if you want to keep this, business is business, work is work.
Right.
Just I would recommend don't take that.
Right. Right.
But there are cases where you receive gifts like a bottle of wine or
Yeah, I mean,
chocolate or snacks.
yeah, Christmas time. I mean, those are things that are seasonal. I would say they're general thanks, right? They're like a general. It's a cultural practice.
In that case, I don't have to take that back, right?
No, I think that's okay. I'm talking more about
Commission or
yeah, or not commission, but a kickback. I mean, technically it's called a kickback, yeah.
yeah.
But I was talking, I wasn't even going that far, because then that's clearly out of the scope of our discussion, because that's clearly dishonest, right? And impacts your trustworthiness. But what I was talking about was more like tips from people, from shareholders or someone that lives in the building, because accepting tips does actually imply that you're obliged to them, that you're indebted to the person who gave you a tip. And if the building is aware that you're accepting those kind of tips, it could open you up to the sense that you're treating people unfairly. It could open it up, right? I'm not saying don't take it. There's always a question as to whether there's a right way to do it. Is there, because you always feel indebted and you feel guilty, and there's a sense of that. But I would say this is not a lesson. This is not an episode on don't accept tips or it's okay to take tips, but just think about it. Think about what it can open up.
Yeah.
In terms of
I think what you're trying to say is all tips are good. All tips are not good. Sorry. I think it depends on the situation. For example, a shareholder, says thank you to you and gives you a tip, then he says, I'm doing a renovation.
Yeah, I guess it's so you're
just
right.
so you know, and
Right.
he gives a thank you tip. Then he means that I'll be doing some construction work, just so you know.
Right.
So that could be a problem.
So it could
right?
be in the context of when you accept it,
Exactly.
right? So in Christmas time, it's just common normal practice, right? I mean,
Yeah.
to give and take a thank you. It's a tip is a thank you. It's a token of appreciation. I appreciate you for the year. That's great, right? But it's in the context of a renovation. If someone gives you a thank you or appreciation, especially during the construction, it just doesn't look good, right?
Yeah, and it's just
And
it's just not, it just doesn't feel right.
it doesn't feel right. I mean, even if, let's say, you help the contractor is a friend of yours and you help the daughter with her homework and tutoring, and he's giving you a tip for that. I mean, I can see how there's always exceptions to these, but it's the appearance looks bad. The appearance of it looks bad no matter what. So keep in mind of that.
Yeah.
And
Also, just before a board meeting, let's say, and shareholder goes, "Hey, we have to talk about the board is going to talk about this," and I just want to shake your hand before we talk about certain things.
Slips a
Yeah.
100 and that, or
Yeah.
20, 100.
Wink, wink. It's like, yeah, like just kindly say, no, thank you.
Is this a board member in your example?
Yeah, a board member saying like, like you know, I don't know, I'm just making this up, but last time there was this hole or something, blah blah blah, and you actually don't know even what he's talking about, and you just shakes your hand and say thank you, like it's like he's trying to give you a signal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, I never had a board member slippy. Oh, well, but I know what you mean. I think it's in the same light. The context of it, right? The
Yeah.
context is the situation where you're getting the thanks.
Yeah.
Where the tip is coming with an expectation
Yeah.
that right?
Yeah.
It's not like after you've done a job where you take a tip, like a $20 tip or a $5 tip. $5 is a little low, but let's just say a $20 tip. You've done the job, you're finished. It was supposed to be part of your job, so you're not going to get paid extra, but it's a thanks, right?
Yeah.
It's not saying my faucet is going to break down again and you're going to have to come here and take care of me, but it's a thanks.
Yeah.
So that's okay, right? Although it could open up. I mean, it still opens you up to the possibility that
Not everything is like 100%. Let's
Yeah.
say 99%.
yeah, I mean, there's nothing 100%. So, that's what I was saying. But I think I included that on this list because of the gray areas of how one can slip from one to the other,
Yeah.
and how slipping without realizing, that slippery slope, it could expose you to questions about your trustworthiness or honesty.
Yeah, so whenever there's a transaction, it has to have a clear reason.
Yes. Once again, you're in a position of trust for the building on behalf of the building, not on behalf of any one resident, or a shareholder. Yes. Okay. So side jobs, that's the other thing. Side jobs are another place where it can, you just have to be careful. Side jobs are okay. I mean, in part-time buildings, you're counting on side jobs to supplement your income. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of these larger buildings too, where the staff can do a lot of the work that the shareholders or building owners need, that's a great match. That's a great synergy. That's where you have people in the building that need the services. You're able to provide it probably at a discount to the residents. So you're doing that job. But this is where where it's allowable, where it's permitted inside the building. It could open you up to your reputation, being exposed, reputation for honesty and trustworthiness, because questions become, especially in a larger building where they're hiring you to do that work as part of your hourly duties. If you're doing side work, especially on that hour that you're working, that's technically double dipping. Right?
Right.
That's technically against the rules. In a lot of buildings, I've seen in a lot of buildings where people have done that and they've gotten in trouble, or claims of that have come out, where the person has never been caught, but there's a rumor mill in the background among shareholders and board members that this person is doing that, and that hits your reputation, of being trustworthy and honest. So what you want to do is, if you're doing work in these buildings, do it after your hours, do it after, before work or after work. Make it clear that you're doing it after hours. And there are many, I've seen awesome people in this industry actually do it the right way, where they make it known and obvious that they're working on their off time.
And even if it takes more time.
If it takes more time, yes. Even if it's inconvenient for you.
Yeah, and that should be the rule. And even if the board member is, the shareholder is happy, and like he's okay with you working inside the unit during your normal hours at the building,
Right.
say no.
Right.
Because if you do that, and it's going to be okay this time, but if you do a side job for another shareholder,
Right.
he's going to say, he's taking up the building's time.
Oh yeah, I mean definitely. If the person you're doing the work for is going to be happy, might be happy, but the next shareholder's not going to be happy.
Yeah.
And so and you develop that reputation, everyone's going to feel generally unhappy.
Exactly.
So it's definitely not a, and then part-time, that may be in larger buildings, but even in part-time buildings, taking side work can be tricky. And a lot of management companies do allow that, but a lot of some management companies want to keep track of that work, and they feel like if you're inside an apartment doing work in your benefit, for your benefit, but they're in the dark about it, they feel like that's being dishonest to them, or they feel like your trustworthiness is in question because they didn't know about that. Because ultimately the building manager is responsible for things that go wrong inside the apartments, and sometimes they want to keep track of, like, the super did that work, so if something goes wrong, they want to be able to know who did that, right? So it's okay if you go in there and make an additional, you're able to make an additional work, a side job out of it, but sometimes they want to know. I would say whenever you're coming into a new building, always ask them first, if these residents need my work, need my help, and I'm able to do it, do you want to know about it? Mm-hmm. Would you prefer to know? Because some managers also may say, don't bother me with this kind of stuff. Give them the choice to say, yes, let me know every time you're inside a building, inside an apartment doing work, or for them to say, only certain type of work I want to know about, the others I don't care about, but let them make that determination. And then stick to that, so that whenever you do that work, you're able to communicate to them that you've been inside an apartment and that you've done work that they may be interested in knowing about.
Okay, then do you think I should tell every side job? Like, for example, should I tell my manager about mounting a TV at the shareholder's place?
I would say in the beginning, yes,
Mm-hmm.
until you know their habits
Mm-hmm.
and their wishes. If a building manager doesn't want to know, and there's certain times where you're right, they shouldn't know about certain, or they don't have to know about certain work, and after you've built that relationship of trust, they may not care as much. But in the process of building that relationship of trust, where you're marrying together with the building, you want to be as transparent as possible.
Got it.
Okay, so we're going down to the end of the list. Going into an apartment is a huge area where you can you're opening yourself up to a situation where your honesty and trustworthiness can be questioned. And of course, this is a critical area because you're no longer in a common area. You're inside someone's home. You're inside where they sleep, where they live. So this is so critical that you follow the right protocol for going into an apartment, a unit. So try always to go in twos. Even if you're super the building, you're in a position of trust. Try to get someone to go with you, so that you can vet. You have someone else as a witness to what you're doing. It's not always going to be possible, but until you build up that reputation of that rock hard reputation of trust, you wanna practice being vetted by somebody while you do something. So it's bringing someone as a witness to vet that you've been in the apartment and you followed the protocol, that you acted professionally, that you didn't do anything that questions your professionalism inside these units. Some of the things some of the points that I've seen that supers didn't follow, and that led to others questioning their trustworthiness or professionalism is the following. Don't go into drawers
Oh,
and,
no.
and cabinets. Don't look around and even look at pictures, photos, It's not a sightseeing tour, right?
Not at a mall.
You're not at a mall. You're not window shopping. You're there to do a job. Unless you are meant to look at something because it's part of that scope while you're in the apartment, don't do that. You just go in there. I often say, pretend I'm blind, except for what I'm supposed to be looking at. Of course, the first step that I miss is always tell someone that you're going to the apartment. A building manager, somebody, especially the resident. Tell the building manager to tell the resident that you're going to the apartment if that person is not there. Always make that be known. Never be in an apartment without, as a surprise to someone, to everyone, right? Somebody has to know that you were there and for what reason. And it better be an emergency if it's without the resident's consent.
Always have permission.
Always have permission. The other thing is that I've seen that can impact your trustworthiness, not honesty. It could be honesty too. And this is why I kind of have a sort of a harsh rule on this. Is like, when you're in there working, you're there to do a job, and the resident's not there, and he allows you to go in there without his presence. Don't clean tools in the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're in there for an emergency without anyone having had advance notice to you being there, don't use the bathroom. Find another place to use the bathroom. If it's an emergency, I can kind of see that, but they're going to think that you've been freely using their their space. They're going to feel like you just made yourself at home. You used my bathroom, you used my toilet paper. So if you can, try not to do that. When I said don't open cabinets where you're not supposed to, or drawers, of course, don't open the fridge unless there's a reason for you to. I had one super who was curious to see what they were eating, and they peeked inside the fridge. It just looks terrible, right? It looks bad. You're not there to learn more about that shareholder. You're there to learn more about the problem that's caused you to be in there.
Yeah, try not to touch anything, or even
that's a great rule. Try not to touch anything. Don't breathe.
Yeah, seriously. Like, even if like your hand or your elbow slides on a hanging coat,
Right.
they might think if something's missing,
Right.
they're gonna think, that super, I saw him, his hand going inside there.
Oh yeah.
In the coat. So be careful, because if someone's suspicious,
Right.
the story can be endless.
Right.
Yeah, human mind's imagination just.
Oh yeah, we're all imaginative creatures. The only thing is that we don't think positive. And we tend to think negative. We tend to imagine negative things.
Yeah.
When these things happen.
Yeah, just think that everything has spike on it, and if you touch it.
Yeah. Or
just
imagine you're being watched all the time that you're there.
Yeah.
Just pretend there's eyes on you.
Yeah.
And that's
there
why.
may be, because inside units there are cameras.
Right.
People install cameras.
Right.
And depending on the angle, you might look super suspicious.
Right. I mean, yeah, definitely. So having that going in with a sense that all eyes are on you can help you, because sometimes we do it inadvertently, right? We're honest people, but we just kind of just maybe gaze at the wall. We see some pictures, things sound interesting, and we go up there, we look at it, and we're like, oh, that's, yeah, or we say, oh, I wonder what that is, and you try to pick it up. Don't do that. See, that's why it's important that when you go in with a game face. Game face is focus on that goal, the mission.
Yeah, and it could be your habit. Like if you see a piece of paper or garbage on the floor, you might pick it up. But in that case, I wouldn't even touch a garbage.
Right.
Because it might not be a garbage.
Oh my God, even anything.
Yeah.
Anything, unless you're sent there to do something like that.
Exactly.
Do not do that.
Yeah, and don't fix. Even if you see something that has to be fixed,
Yep.
just don't. There, you have a goal. You have a specific goal and quest.
Right.
Do that.
Do that
don't
one
do
thing.
anything
Right.
else. And I just want to ask you one question. You mentioned about going into a unit with another person.
Right.
Who could that be, another person?
In the part-time super situation, that's difficult, right? Because you're the only person that's there.
Yeah.
What I would say in that situation is ask a property manager if they or someone else can go with you. Just call them and ask. Even if you know that this property manager is not there, it'll take a while to get there. At least they'll know that you're interested in getting a second person there.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is maybe to film yourself going in there.
Yeah,
Get
that's
it.
what I mentioned.
Oh, okay. Maybe with your cell phone, just film yourself walking in there and what you're doing. Right.
Yeah, from unlocking the door.
From unlocking the door, yeah.
Just not in the middle of your repairs. I'm doing okay,
Right.
I'm doing my job, but just I think that's important. Like unlocking the door and
Right.
going inside, and there will always be a time on your video.
Right.
So it proves that you were there at a certain time. You spent certain hours there. Of course, it would be hard to film everything depending on the scope of the work.
Sure.
But at least you tried.
At least you tried, and I think, yeah.
I think entering the unit and leaving the unit, I recommend filming, how everything is inside the unit.
Oh yeah, that's actually a good thing too, like a summary.
Yeah, like a
Like
summary.
I was here. This is
Yeah.
it. Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say like maybe one thing is, it's someone's home, so maybe not take pictures of everything. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but just in case when you have to defend something, there was an incident where a super did a job inside a unit,
Yeah.
and the resident was claiming that one of her luxury bags was missing.
Right.
So, the super was, they were suspicious about the super who did the work, who came inside the unit while she was not there. So if you film your surroundings,
Right.
They might be able to see, oh, the bag is over there, while
Right.
the super's leaving, or there's it's so evident that it was impossible for the super to have taken the bag because he was at this time and he left at that time. So it's kind of like leaving a track.
Right.
And in the video, the bag might be there, the bag might not be there. It could be a solid evidence that it was done by someone else.
Right.
So just in case that kind of thing happens,
Prepare yourself.
yeah, prepare yourself.
Yeah. I mean, get into the habit of using a camera for evidence.
Yeah.
It's a tool for you to boost your credibility.
Yeah.
Of course, your professionalism in terms of documentation, all that stuff is great. There's a lot of things you can do with a camera. You can take pictures and draw on them to point things out. But use that. That's the best tool you have. You got to carry a phone with you. Phones have great camera these days. Use that camera, and do it in a way I think the other thing is doing it in a way that's smart, right?
Yeah. And if you don't have enough memory, at least voice record it.
Right.
And record, okay, I'm unlocking the door, I'm
Right.
going inside here, I'm doing this work.
Right.
You can do that. There are so many ways you can use technology and
Yeah.
also protect yourself.
Right. And then the last thing I have, the last one,
Yeah.
is, and this is the thing that I think you should not do strongly to prevent your trustworthiness or honesty to be, diminished or eroded, hurt, is don't engage in gossip or rumors with residents or shareholders. Stay clear of that, because if you do engage in that, you could be seen as, especially if it's about a resident in a negative way, negative rumors, I'm saying, hurtful rumors, is that if anyone ever confronts you, you're gonna have to tell the truth about it or lie about it, right? Either way, it doesn't put you in a great situation. It will force you to think dishonestly, because it's you're going to be in a situation where you're feeling anxious and scared. So don't partake in that. Always step away from that. If anyone says to you something that seems to be part of a rumor mill, gossip, just say, I'll take that into consideration, and keep it as something that may not be truthful.
Yeah, and even if you have your own opinion, keep it to yourself.
That's the other thing. Keep it to yourself. Don't start them, in other words. Don't start the rumor mill. I wonder who started that. Oh, it was the super himself. Yeah, don't start those. Professionalism means always having a distance, emotional distance between, we often make rumors when we're jumping the gun. We'll often start them when we're assuming things, right? And as supers, we're not there to assume. We're concrete fact gatherers as supers. Actually, we are. I mean, just as I'm talking out loud, supers are supposed to be fact gatherers. We're fact gatherers. We're not rumor gatherers. We operate on fact, and it's important.
Yeah, and that's your job.
Right.
Yeah, and also saying something about or telling someone about what's inside a shareholder's unit.
Oh, yeah, that's a great
that
point too.
I mean, that happens.
Yes.
That happens. Oh, I saw blah blah blah. Oh, he has a really nice chair, or something like that too.
Right.
I just don't say that.
No,
you're not supposed to say that.
No, I mean, you may be forced in a situation where he has a big furry couch and everyone's laughing at that, but you may just want to say, yeah, if they say, yeah, wasn't it? Yeah, it's interesting, and then you just kind of
walk away.
But you're not going to be like, yeah, and then it was fluffy and it was colored orange and it had the name on it or something like that. You don't want to. Definitely don't want to be involved in that.
And it could be private information.
Yeah, I mean, I usually say, just think about if it was your home and someone was there.
Even if you're okay, someone else might not be.
That's true.
Please,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I'm sure there's other things out there.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's stuff I said that some may disagree with.
Yeah, feel free to let us know.
Yeah, just let us know. This is, it's a tough topic. Honesty and trustworthiness is a tough topic.
Yeah.
Because, there's so many ways that this can be hit, and it's so important to have a strong reputation for honesty and trustworthiness. And there's so many easy ways to break that down and for it to be challenged by somebody else.
Yeah. So I think we touched upon a lot of cases.
Yeah.
And I think these are kind of common mistakes
Right.
that supers make.
Right.
And sometimes you're just not aware of them.
Right.
So I know honesty and trustworthy are things that you can't really study and learn.
Yeah.
Like
Can't take more classes on it.
yeah, exactly. So I think just by being aware of these common mistakes,
Right.
it's gonna help you develop more honesty, more trustworthiness.
Right.
Yeah, and becoming a really solid professional super.
Right. And also, don't be afraid to make mistakes. As long as you learn from them,
Yeah.
and you because we know that, sometimes a lot of times we're not aware. We're just not aware. We're not conscious of it. There's times that we slip. There's times that we make mistakes without ill intention, bad intentions. And it's important just to pick yourself back up and work on not making that mistake again.
Exactly.
You can't grow without that experience. Anyone that you've seen who finds that reputation for honesty and trustworthiness important to them, I'm sure they've made their mistakes too. And they've become the person that they are by building through that mistake, building themselves back up. So don't be, discouraged. Just keep at it. And because ultimately that's going to impact you getting to that perfect position, which will translate into a great salary, that will translate into a great, fulfilling career.
Yeah, and it's all learning process, learning experience.
Yep.
It will add up.
Yep. Well, thank you very much, Jennifer. Appreciate you staying with us for this long podcast.
Yeah, thank you, James.
Okay, and have a great weekend.
You too.